No, Eddie, we're going to be showing a poll that shows that evangelical Christians still remain loyal to this man. And I must say, if so, there is just, again, there is nothing consistent with the teachings of Jesus. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing. In the Beatitudes, in the Sermon on the Mount, especially in the story of the Good Samaritan, you can look for all of the red letters in your King James New Testament Bible, and you will see that Donald Trump, the way he lives and the policies he pursues, is the antithesis of those red words.
You know, Joe, it's fascinating and profoundly problematic to see those numbers in the Pew Report. It reveals the Faustian bargain that many white evangelicals have made with regards to the Trump presidency, that they're willing to close their eyes to the teachings of Christ, that in order to in some ways support a president that they think will pursue their agenda with regards to judges, with regards to the moral questions that animate the religious right. What's fascinating, though, is that it's always been the case, at least in my reading of the Gospels, that it wasn't Jesus' close relationship to the Roman government that got him on the cross. That it was, in fact, his willingness to challenge power, his refusal to walk the corridors of power, his refusal to, in some ways, side with the rich and powerful over and against the poor and vulnerable. That when you talk about Matthew 25, Joe, when you talk about, in some ways, that ministry that has, in some ways, transformed the world, it's not a ministry that is really designed to produce court profits, to mix my two books, right? It's not a ministry designed to generate what some scholars have called Constantinian Christians, those Christians who are so deeply aligned with the Roman power that they turn their back on what put Jesus on the cross in the first place. So I tweeted out that this reveals a crisis in white evangelicalism, but it also reveals the history of white evangelicalism, Joe, and it's deeply troubling and problematic.
Well, and when you talk about Matthew 25, as we continue the Eddie Glaude hour of power here on Morning Joe, seen weekdays 6 to 9, and everybody said, amen, amen. I like that. You know, you talk about Matthew 25, that's not like something that Jesus coughed and just threw that. That is the center, Mika, of what Jesus says. I mean, his disciples asked him, how do we get to heaven? How do we sit on the right hand of the Father? And Jesus says, give a cup of water in the Master's name, feed the hungry, clothe the naked. And it's basically bring comfort to those who need comfort and hope to the hopeless. You look at that, which is really the cornerstone of Jesus' ministry. And then you look at stories like the Good Samaritan, and then you read the Beatitudes. And I must say, as somebody who grew up in the evangelical church, still considers it my home, and still considers the fact that Donald Trump still is saying he does not need to be forgiven by Jesus Christ. And he's never once needed to be forgiven by Jesus Christ. Never asked for forgiveness. It is the antithesis of everything, at least the First Baptist Church in Meridian, Mississippi, and Pensacola, Florida, and Chamblee, Georgia. I can just tell you, that ain't nothing I ever learned in any of those churches. So why do 7 in 10 evangelicals still support Donald Trump? If you're saying judges, I would just say that sort of sounds a lot like somebody who is, trying to gain the world but lose their own soul. I still don't get it, Mika.
Well,
I still don't get it.
I don't either.